calling for a change. Elected officials have been calling for a change. And it often seemed like it was beyond our reach. But yesterday in Albany, that change happened. And that will change everything. Because now there will be the ability to have the openness, the transparency, the ability to see what's really going on that I think is how you build faith and trust. So I want to thank Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. I want to thank Speaker Carl Hastie, the sponsors of the legislation, Senator Jamal Bailey and Assemblymember Danny O'Donnell. They have done something historic. You can use a word like historic, and it can sometimes be overused. This is historic. This is one of the moments where things change. For decades and decades, there were so many things in the way of change, including too often the, I think, fundamentally inappropriate overuse of power by police unions. That's what often blocked change in Albany, but it did not block it this time. So now we have the sunlight we've been waiting for. Now we have the kind of openness that will not only tell us about specific instances of discipline or what's being done with an officer who didn't do the right thing, it will start to restore a deeper faith. So that is such an important building block, but I want to talk today about the larger solutions. Transparency matters deeply, but the truest solutions come from the grassroots. The truest solutions come from the people. The way we're going to move forward, both in terms of safety and peace and justice, is by the empowerment of grassroots leadership, the empowerment of organizations that authentically represent the people of our communities, that create change that government alone could never create. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the crisis management system, the Cure Violence movement, the way that government has recognized, and I have recognized personally, that if we actually invest in people, if we invest in communities, we make a change that's much, much deeper. You're going to hear also from the leaders of the Black, Latino, Asian Caucasus City Council, who have been leading the way for months now in terms of the kinds of changes we need in this city, who are not only demanding change, but putting forward the tangible proposals that will bring us change. You'll hear from Councilmember Adrienne Adams and Councilmember Danique Miller, who have been doing such important work, bringing forward a whole new set of different approaches that we need in this city. But I want you to hear first from leaders of the crisis management system, the Cure Violence movement, and I want to first tell you why it matters to me, what I have come to learn. I didn't know about this movement at the time I took office as mayor. I came to understand it piece by piece. I came to understand phrases like credible messengers. I came to understand that there were people in communities who understood how to mediate, how to stop violence before it happened, how to reach young people in a way that no one in government possibly could. There were people in communities who were stepping up, owning their streets in a whole different way. And it was not just about the fact that they stopped violence. They did in an amazing fashion. This is a story that should be on every front page. And I hope today will help put it on the front page. A movement that stopped violence before it happened, a movement that stopped shootings, that stopped violence, that stopped people from dying, a movement that reached young people and gave them hope. That's what I came to understand more and more, a movement that created actual grassroots leadership that could build a future on the ground in communities, something we have needed more and more of. I've seen it with my own eyes that this is now happening in our city. But it's happening without, I think, the full understanding and support that this movement, this system deserves. This is a group of human beings who made a difference. They decided to own, they decided to create, they decided to break cycles that were only hurting their own people and do something about it. It's incredibly noble. We need this movement to keep growing. And today I'm going to announce an expansion of the crisis management system and the Cure Violence movement. We will add 4 additional neighborhoods, Soundview in the Bronx, Jamaica, Queens, Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and Canarsie in Brooklyn as well. With that expansion, the Cure Violence movement will now be active in 20 precincts, all 20 precincts with the highest gun violence levels in the city. That means lives will be saved, period. Lives will be saved, violence will be reduced. We will also be increasing the budget for all existing crisis management system organizations. So between these two initiatives, we will be adding in the upcoming budget over $10 million for the crisis management system, Cure Violence movement. This is now an additional investment on top of the tripling of resources that has been achieved since 2014. We need to bring in additional sites, additional staff. We need more and more people at the community level hired into this work to achieve peace in a way that we have now seen with our own eyes works like nothing else. So I want you to hear from the folks who did this extraordinary work. I want you to hear from people who have made a difference, and they are, in many ways, I think, the kind of heroes people need to know. And the people who work with them are the kind of heroes people need to know. At a moment where everyone's looking for where we go, this, I believe, is one of the ways we move forward. This is where we go. This is the future. First, a 30-year veteran of this work, recognized all over the country, has taught and spread the work of peace and grassroots solutions, but not just teaches how this movement works, how this system works, but practices it every day, goes to wherever the need is and makes a difference. Her organization, Life Camp, what a powerful name, Life Camp, for almost 20 years has changed the lives of tens of thousands of young people, teenagers and young adults, and what a difference she and Life Camp have made. Let me introduce to you Erica Ford. I don't think you need a step to give you height.
Peace, everyone, and thank you, Mayor, for being a visionary and being bold and audacious and radically reimagining how we can move forward once our people make a cry throughout the nation for something different. We are trailblazers in New York, and we've been trailblazing with the New York City Crisis Management System on the front line, interrupting and reducing violence by mediating conflict and working with young people to make sure that they do something different when the trauma that impacts them from generation to generation, from the violence, from the years of oppression, from the years of brutality, from the years of miseducation. And sometimes they take that trauma, that pain, and lash out on those around them. And so we in the crisis management system throughout New York City believe it is important to address violence as a public health crisis and to address it as a disease and help these young people heal, help their families heal. And so we have unconventional and conventional therapeutic services. We go into the jails, we go into the schools, we go into the centers where young people hang out, and we go to the hot spots and where they are. We go everywhere where there's a potential for someone to be shot or to shoot someone. And we help people turn their lives around. And I remember just a minute ago in our district in Southeast Queens, we had 25 shootings and 12 people killed. And one of the police inspectors told me, there's no way you're going to stop retaliation. There's no way you're going to be able to do this. There's no way you're going to be able to change those young men's lives. We did that. We not only stopped retaliation from being at a high level, but we worked with those young people who were directly involved in the situation, and we had them on Zooms learning how to develop leadership. We had them at Man Up taking their OSHA classes. We had them challenging their pain to purpose. And we helped so many of them who lost family members heal. And this is only the beginning. And we continue to walk down this road of co-producing public safety in New York, but understanding the importance of investing in people, believing in people, and understanding that our children are invested in and under resourced and not criminals and not violent and not, there's no need for the police to come in and continue to have incidents of creating more violence when we're so aggressive amongst each other. And so peace is a lifestyle is our mantra, and we continue to make peace a lifestyle, not only in the streets with our young brothers and sisters, but in the precincts with the police officers who come into our community, as we continue to work with them and help them heal too, as we saw the increase of suicide amongst police officers this year, as we see the increase of incidents in all over the United States around domestic violence and all kinds of violence, interpersonal violence. That comes from pain, and we have to help people heal. We hear the cry in the streets, we understand, and we see you. And we know that the work must begin in changing mindsets and healing people and putting a system together that can do something different. And we are here to take the job and stand in salute of peace.
Thank you so much, Erica. So you can hear the passion and the purpose, and I've come to know each of these leaders. My admiration for them has grown. I want to introduce to you now a leader who worked for structural change. He helped to create legislation to change relationship between police and community. He worked on the big changes we need, but he also worked at the front line to create peace. Founded 696 Build Queensbridge. 696 Build Queensbridge transformed the Queensbridge houses. I don't think that is the wrong verb. I think it's the right verb. Transformed the lives of people in the largest public housing development in the United States of America. I remember for years and years, if you said Queensbridge, people thought, tragically, they thought of violence, they thought of pain, until this organization changed the reality fundamentally. It was painstaking work. It was work of the heart. It was work of the mind. It was work connecting with young people in a whole different way, reaching people, no matter what had happened in their life, reaching them differently. I saw this work, and the only word I can use is awe that I felt to see this level of achievement. There was more than a year in the Queensbridge houses without a single shooting, something that would have been inconceivable for decades in this city, but it was achieved by this organization and people at the grassroots. The man who made it happen, my pleasure to introduce Kay Bain. Whoop, we're not supposed to, I'm sorry, there you go.
Okay, you're right. That's right. So first and foremost, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say what an important moment we are in at this time. We're talking about Black Lives Mattering. They've always mattered to us here in this conversation. We've always known that people inside of our communities have the same concerns as people outside, and we are the ones that are best positioned to find those remedies and solutions to the issues in our community. I'm thinking about what Erica Ford said in the work that Life Camp does. I'm also thinking about my brother A.T. Mitchell and Man Up. And there's a common denominator in the work that we do. And it's really easy to see that we are involved in a human justice initiative where people are at the center of the work that we do. And sometimes it's easy for us in today's fast-paced society to lose sight of the fact that we have to have a human-centered approach to making change, and also to do that, to make change in a housing development. You get asked, how do you stop shootings for 365 days in the largest housing development in the world? And that's a longer conversation, a longer question, but at the core of it is understanding that human relationships, earning trust, putting individuals and their humanity first is a key component. And when we want to affect change in a season where we see unrest and protests in this city, in this country, and around the world, we have to address it on three levels. We have to look at community empowerment. And when you talk to us leaders in the crisis management system and the Cure Violence Initiative, we are those people that, again, are in tune with the community. We believe in people being the voice that's heard. We have to remember we elect our elected officials. So I don't always agree with the mayor of New York City, and I'm sure sometimes he doesn't agree with me. But when those calls and those texts come in, I know that he's going to listen. He's going to hear. And we are here in this position of change and restructuring because leaders understand to be in those positions, you have to listen to the people. So community empowerment is very important. A second thing that we do in terms of our approach is system realignment. We understand that the system is working for some and not working for all. So we have to address policies like we talk about 58, we talk about on a state level what's happening with regard to transparency with authority and accountability for law enforcement. That is very important for change to occur, a transformation to occur. And lastly, we look at the direct services that we provide. We touch young people's lives in a way that I don't see happen anywhere else. And it's because we are those persons. We are the real models. We lived those lives. We stepped in those shoes. We've walked those streets. We've made those mistakes, and we've grown through into where we are now. So when you address change and revolution and transformation on those three levels, when you empower communities, when you realign systems, and you work with individuals in direct touch, response, and services, as was taught to me by my mentors, Eddie Ellis and Divine Pryor, this is human justice at its best. And so we have entered a stage in our society where people have to be heard and listened to. The people have the power. Again, we elect the elected officials. We are the ones that vote and cast those votes to put them in office, and they are there to listen to us. We are the ones that pay the salaries of the law enforcement officers that come into and out of our communities. Those are our dollars. So this allocation today, announcement that's being made, we appreciate the support. We're going to be working with and watching our mayor in the next 19 months, and he's welcomed that. Accountability has to happen on our end in the community, it has to happen in law enforcement, and it has to happen with elected officials. This is how we move forward. It's a pleasure and a privilege today to be here as a part of the leadership and the architecture and the visionary force behind the crisis management system with my sister Erica Ford, my brother A.T. Mitchell, and the mayor of New York City. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And you're hearing how personal this work is. You are hearing that this is a choice people made, confronted with unacceptable realities. They did not shrink before it. They created something. They fought back with peace. An amazing example of people taking ownership of their own community. This is the way forward. I'm going to keep saying it. This is the future. It's not something that came together in this last week or two. This is the work that's been done for years and decades to build authentic grassroots leadership to make a change. And all of us in government better be listening, and we should be deferring and supporting grassroots leadership in this moment. And now an example that's so powerful. So back in 2003, an 8-year-old killed by a stray bullet in East New York, Deshaun Hill. Think of the pain and the frustration and the anger and the hopelessness that that could make a community feel. But in that moment, one man saw something that could be different. A.T. Mitchell believed something could be different, founded Man Up. And it began, like so many of the great historic movements in history, in a small room with a small group of people. And it built, and it built, and it built. And now, so many thousands, tens of thousands of people have been touched by the work of Man Up, given hope, given purpose, given an understanding of the power of peace, young people mentored, programs that reach young people and give them something positive and show them a path away from violence and toward hope. It only happened because one man said it did not have to be a broken reality. It could be something that people create that is better. I'm really honored to introduce to you A.T. Mitchell. Now I'll do it right.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very appreciative of those remarks. I'm thankful to be here. I want to say thank you to a host of folks for allowing us the opportunity to be able to stand here united, to speak from this platform and this podium. To those of you that you work in the city, your administrators, and some of those that work behind the scenes at the Office to Prevent Gun Violence, at the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. I'm very thankful to all the city council members that represent our districts, that helped support us in this effort in the very beginning to this very day. We are very appreciative of all the city council members throughout the city for your support. I'm very thankful of all my crisis management system co-architects, like my sister Erica Ford and Kay Bain and Dr. Pryor and Lance Furtado and others who have helped us to build this system. But I'm even more thankful to my comrades and to my colleagues out there, the fearless men and women, superheroes of the crisis management system and the Kill Violence global family worldwide. I salute you. Because every day and night we go out there without guns and without badges. We've been a quiet, to some, but major part of making New York City the biggest and safest city in the nation. Because of this administration and its continued financial support, New York City is the largest Kill Violence global and crisis management system replication site in the world. This is a fact. It was said best by this mayor several years ago. We recall we had got together at the Brooklyn Museum in Brooklyn to celebrate the stats at that time. That, you know, it was the goal of this administration to reduce gun violence-related homicides, and that you would not stop until we reported a 0 death in the city of New York. And to date, and this announcement demonstrates his commitment that he made several years ago in Brooklyn. With that in mind, we need to commit to baselining and increasing the funding of the system, because even though today's announcement helps us, it's still far from what we need in order to really produce the results that we ultimately all want to see, the day that we can report 0 homicides in the city of New York. Simply by recruiting, employing, training, and then deploying influential, credible messengers as public health workers back into the neighborhoods and the communities that they were raised makes a big difference. They go back into those communities with a renewed mindset. They use their influence in a positive manner to help us reduce violent incidences every single day. The data and the evaluations that are out there is proof of what I'm talking about. We need to make sure that there is legislation that supports making the Office to Prevent Gun Violence a permanent office in the city of New York. So just like the Office of the Domestic Violence and the Office of Immigration Affairs, we would like to see the Office to Prevent Gun Violence made permanent. I am looking forward to working alongside this administration as we further create a plan that is led by the community and driven by the community, but more importantly, a plan that is a public health approach to public safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I want just everyone to hear, before you hear from our leadership of the Black, Latino, Asian Caucus, these 3 individuals and so many thousand more put their lives on the line. I don't want this just to be heard as these are leaders who stay back in an office, get reports from the field. I need people to understand it. The bravery of going out, as was said, without a gun, without a badge, into situations where there's pain, where there's conflict, where there's even the potential of gun violence, and diffusing it with mind, body, spirit. There's been many, many positive stories, many positive moments where violence was averted, but because these people put their lives on the line. And we have to understand that level of sacrifice and commitment. So we're going to continue to add resources. We're going to continue to add support, continue to empower this movement. I can't think of anything more noble than a human being deciding that in the name of peace, they will put their own body forward and risk their own life for the safety of others without anything to defend them but the power of their beliefs. There's many great traditions in the history of the world of nonviolence overcoming violence. This is one of them, and it's happening in our time. So my honor is given to all of you. And I've watched you, I have admired you, and I look forward to being a true partner even more in the year and a half ahead. This work only happens because City Council believes in this model and supports it just as fully as I do, and the Black, Latino, Asian Caucus has led the way. And I've been in constant conversation over these last days with the leadership of the things we're going to do differently in this city, the way we're going to build a new reality in this transformative moment. Remember, we all have recognized that the pain that has come out of the coronavirus, and we've been saying this now for months, it laid bare a reality more starkly than ever before, and therefore the city cannot return to its status quo. I want this to be abundantly clear. I've said it for weeks and weeks and weeks. We cannot return to the status quo before. We must create something different to move forward in this city. The caucus has been leading the way, creating the ideas and the vision of how we get there, and I want to introduce to you both the leaders here with us today. I was just with him in Cambria Heights just a few days ago. And this is a man who does so much for the community. In that case, we were working together on a food drive for people who were working just weeks ago and now have no income and need food. And Councilmember Danique Miller, working with clergy, working with community organizations, was giving food to folks who need it. Every time in the many experiences we've had together, every time it took courage, he displayed courage in the name of change. Every time working people were not being given justice, he stood up, and that comes from his history as a leader in the labor movement. He's someone who painstakingly works to make change. I saw him stand up for veterans when it wasn't easy in his own community, and it should never be hard to stand up for veterans, but in this case, it took courage. Some people may see him as a man who has a calm demeanor. I see a man of steel and strength who stands up for what's right. Co-chair of the Black, Latino, Asian Caucus, Councilmember Danique Miller.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got a new hype man there. That was pretty good. But I am so appreciative of the opportunity to be here to talk about these extraordinary organizations and your extraordinary leadership in this manner. I have had, as you give a brief history of my history, and I've had the pleasure of, even in my labor days, partnering with the crisis management groups and systems and the cure violence groups, and using some of those resources and just coming together. And I think that has been really, that type of synergy has really led to the success that this leadership has really reached out to community leaders, reached out to folks in labor and in government, and said that this work is important. And as you said, those credible messengers, the way that they reach the lives and the souls of those untouchable, often disenfranchised young people, that as Ralph Ellison would say, those invisible men and women that no one sees that could walk past you, and we either put our head down or walk to the other side of the street or just don't see them. They have seen and touched the lives of those. And then also seniors, that sometimes we see that portion of the work. And so what I want to, my statement was simple. It was about the crisis management organizations that have consistently led the emergency response to our community's public safety and social service needs. Today's announcement not only reflects the values of the work that they have done on the ground to combat gun violence, but the vital role that they will now play in aiding the city with helping our communities of color heal from the twin traumas of COVID and racial injustice. I thank the administration for its partnership with the Black, Latino, and Asian Caucus, and is supporting these ambassadors of peace as they set out to fulfill their latest mission. And so when we say that, you know, we talk very specifically about the gun violence. But I will tell you, having, you know, I show up in Queensbridge where, you know, obviously everybody has family, and, you know, when being the largest public housing in the country, and to East New York, which is where I was reared, and certainly in district in the greater Jamaica area, and folks when they see the orange RV pulling up, or they see the man up pulling up, they just know, and there's a level of comfort that then happens. And so it has transcended even beyond the gun violence. It is the next level of these ambassadors and the work that you do. There was such an easy transition and quite frankly, a no-brainer when it came to not enforcement, but social distancing, the education of social distancing, right? And how they seamlessly transitioned over to those ambassadors, those group of young folks who were standing on the corner or just doing what they normally do and not knowing why they should be masked, not knowing why they should have the hand sanitizers, and what this process really looks like. It is the members of this crisis management system that seamlessly went in there and educated them on why and how it should be done. And so these are the things that they do on a regular basis that really transcend just what we see in terms of the gun violence. And the gun violence is certainly down. I would also say, I would submit that, you know, I witnessed firsthand being each and every one of them and your team members being out on the streets. And I have been, you know, I've certainly got the 12, 1, 2 o'clock phone calls and ended up in emergency rooms or precincts. But as you witnessed on this weekend and the other times that we have spoken and you have visited the community, Mr. Mayor, the work that we have done, even with the law enforcement side, was never easy, right? And some of the work that you have seen, the lack of response that you've seen in Jamaica, Queens, and in the borough of Queens overall, I can speak to, that you, unlike what you've seen throughout the city, you know, when you sit back, it is really by virtue of the work that was done by these groups in advance. This is the work that we've all done. It wasn't by accident or by chance. And to dismiss the voice and the work would be really a disservice to all of us, because the work that they do is really a manifestation of the voice of those who have been unheard, right? And so the transformation and the marijuana reform, the stop and frisk reforms, all those things, and the culmination of the work that we are hearing, and that these people are on the ground talking to these young folks, bringing to these young folks to us. By the way, they're interning with us. You know, they're really changing lives, and to be a part of that, this movement is special. I want to thank you for your vision, your leadership on that, and I look forward to working with the crisis management team and looking forward to really seeing this movement grow. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you so much. Now, one more speaker, and she is coming to us remotely and has done extraordinary work. I want to say that I came to know Adrienne Adams through her work in the community in Southeast Queens, work at the grassroots, making sure that government actually served people. And there's some people, when you get to know them, you can tell immediately they understand how things work and what changes are needed, and they have the will and the intelligence to make the change, the perseverance to make the change. And I saw that from Adrienne Adams time and time again. In her leadership with Councilmember Danique Miller, her leadership of the Black, Latino, Asian Caucus, she has been a clear, strong leader saying, not only do we need to move forward, but here's how we do it. And if you know her work, it doesn't surprise you to know she has that architect's way of thinking. She's not an architect by profession. That's not my point. My point is she thinks about how you build stone upon stone upon stone to create something new that will actually serve the community. And that's the work she's done all her life. And I also have to say, on a very poignant note, a very sad note, she lost her dad very recently in the midst of this crisis. And, you know, was there for her family, but still there for the people she served, kept perseverant as her father taught her. And I admire your strength in this moment, Adrienne. Welcome to speak to all of us, Councilmember Adrienne Adams.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. It is an honor to be with you this morning. This is such an unprecedented time. I thank my colleague, my co-chair, Councilmember Idanique Miller, for your work. Of course, our Cure Violence partners, all of you, particularly my sister Erica Ford, that I've admired for so many years. And I'm going to tell you a little story once I say my words. I am literally right now in the middle of a finance hearing with the New York City Council, or I would be there with you right now. But I'm happy to just give my thoughts on this, because partnerships with Cure Violence groups on the ground, intimately involved in living in our communities, are keeping our youth and communities safe. You know, our community has had its share of challenges over the past year, but we remain resilient. So at this juncture, it's important that we resist the temptation to overuse law enforcement to solve all of the problems in our community. We do need a holistic approach. And I thank you, Cure Violence team, crisis management system leaders, for being there for us over these years, these decades. This new funding is a welcome investment in the community-driven work that brings our communities the help and the hope that we all need. It's so important at this critical time that we partner, continue to partner, always partner with our community-based Cure Violence organizations. These are the people that have developed interpersonal relationships with children, parents, schools, religious institutions, and the entire community. They ground to uplift our neighborhoods and are best suited to not only stop problems before they start, but also encourage residents to take action so that we can encourage social distancing and curb the spread of COVID-19. Our Cure Violence organizations engage our communities to promote neighborhood resilience and safety. Increasing community-led measures to preemptively cure violence is a step in the right direction. So today's announcement is an important step toward moving forward as a city. We cannot place a dollar amount on the life and safety of New Yorkers, and I thank Mayor de Blasio for this investment and thoughtful approach. Thank you so much. You know, I've been a resident of Jamaica for over 30 years. Way before I became an elected official, I was, still am. I always say this to my constituents: I'm your next door neighbor. You know, still am your next door neighbor. And I remember many, many years ago, I was on my way to church. I was driving down 111th Avenue. And on my left, I saw this orange car. And I saw this being jump out of this little orange car. And I saw the unmistakable hair running up into a front lawn. And I looked out of my car and I said, oh my God, that's Erica Ford. I wonder where she's going. And all I could imagine is that I knew the work of Erica Ford for years. We were on the community board at the same time for a little while, but on the same time. So I knew her work for a very long time, but to see her physically in motion, I knew that she was on the ground in my neighborhood, and I trusted that work then, and I trust that work now. So anything that I can do, have done, will do to preserve the work of our crisis management system. Erica's always saying, help us, help us, help us. Well, I hope that this is the beginning of really, really ingrained and entrenched help for this amazing system that, as the mayor says, puts your lives on the line 24/7 to do things that our law enforcement officials cannot do, to do things that lay people cannot do, to do things that elected officials cannot do. And for that, I say thank you, thank you, thank you, Care Management System leaders. I look forward to and am honored to continue our partnership. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for your continued support. And thank you to my co-chair. I'm high-fiving you from a distance. I got to get finance hearing, but I wish you all well. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Council Member. And everyone, as we conclude this piece of this press conference, I want to say something that really people need to hear these stories, in my opinion, not just in this city, but all over this country. Three tremendous leaders and voices, powerful voices of change. But these are positive voices who have a solution. They have seen the pain. They will tell you just how real it is. They have seen the disparity. They will take a backseat to no one in fighting the injustice, the disparity, 400 years of oppression that brought us to this moment. but they also have created something. So this nation is struggling to find solutions. I've got a solution for you, right here, right here, right here. And I would say to everyone around the country, including all my fellow mayors, as you're dealing with these weeks of pain that are simply a horrible reminder, people speaking out is a good thing. You know, people speaking for change is a good thing, but the pain that brought it up is horrible. The pain of the coronavirus is shocking to all of us. We still can't take in 100 days we have been on a journey together in something we never could have imagined, but it is dredged up truth. So to every mayor out there, if you want to move forward, turn to the people, turn to the grassroots, turn to folks who actually have solutions, turn to folks who are so sincere about the work of change that they will literally put their own lives forward. If we did that in every corner of this country, if Cure Violence crisis management system existed in every neighborhood and was respected, and it is crucial that elected officials, police, all institutions of society understand and respect this movement, we would be taking a huge step to a more peaceful country, but also a more just country. If leadership resides at the grassroots, people who are actually agents of true justice, we can all move forward together. So I thank you all. I know you all have important work to get back to. Thank you again, Councilmember. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. Take care. Yes, indeed. Unique. All right. Now, everything we're dealing with against a backdrop, again, I cannot believe what the last 100 days